Week 2, everybody. Week 2. Here we go. You came back for more. All right. So, hey, if you came tonight because your friend was like, hey, we should just go to this thing, and you're like, what the heck? Aren't we supposed to be at church and it said sex like that big on there? Yup. We are in a series called Love, Sex, and Dating. It's a 5-week series. So, the next couple of weeks, including tonight, we will be getting more specific into the dating space and the dating world. Before I get into that, the following after that, we're going to have Q&A with people. Like, we're going to have leaders up here. You're going to ask them whatever you want. All right? And the following week, I will walk through sex. I will talk about what God has to say about sex, why he invented it, what he created it for. And then we'll have another panel up right after that, where once again, you can ask any questions that have to do with that topic. I know, we're putting ourselves on the line for that. But tonight, let's talk about dating. So, by the way, my name is Arnold. If I haven't had a chance to meet you, I get to lead 1112. I would love to meet you if it's your first time tonight. Love that you are here. Join in, take notes. We jump in right away because we got a lot to cover, especially when we're talking about relationships and dating. So, dating. What does the culture think? What does it say about dating? Many times, I like, just for fun, to look at magazines waiting to check out at the grocery store to just see what do they have to say about dating. And sometimes I come across all kinds of weird titles when it comes to dating, and I just wanted to share a few with you. Are you ready? Let's have a little bit of fun. Here's one. Why is your crush a keeper? Ooh, my gosh, I got to read that. Or, why are you his good luck charm? Dang, don't you want to read that one? Or how about this? Are you on the road to love? Dang, wow, so deep. How about this? Boy type, question mark. All celebrity guys, so you pick one so you can figure out your type because, that's realistic. How about this? What's your perfect heartbreak anthem? So deep to the heart, right? How about this? What does his nickname for you reveal? Other than puke, whatever. How about this? Does he love me? Signs he loves me. They're very smart. How about these quizzes? Look at these quizzes. Are you in love or forcing it? Dang, we got to take that quiz. How about this one? Oh, I love this one. Does he love me or does he like me more than a friend? That's a quiz I got to take. How about this? Does my ex-boyfriend miss me quiz? Save your money. He probably doesn't. All right, let's keep going. How about this? What does your crush think of you? Somehow it's now psychic in the magazine world. Some of my favorites right here. 16 things you should know before dating a book nerd. 19 annoying things. It gets real. Here, watch. 19 annoying things your crush does during a makeout sesh. Or how about this final quiz? Hold on. Here's the final quiz. Ready? Hold on. Why don't you have a boyfriend and why are you single? Yes! Let's just go read these magazines, right? Wrong. Come on back. Come on back. This is the culture. Listen, this is the culture that is informing your dating, our dating world. Our culture is actually obsessed with relationships, with dating. You see it in the tabloids, news. How about a show called The Bachelor, Bachelorette? Some of you are like, I'm going to go watch that. Okay, it's like, and I mean, I think about that show in general. It's like, hey, in my own life, I'm not going to see enough relationships. So you know what? Let me watch a show. Or you know what? Let's put together a show where we watch 25 couples or 25 people at a time. Oh, and you know what? One of those couples is the same guy for the same girl, which already is a disaster when you start with that. But as you keep going down that show, it's things like this. Then we will send them on dates that they probably could never afford themselves. So all of your fantasies about maybe being there one day in a home that most of us may never have, can never afford, and ask them all to do whatever it takes to find love. That's what this show is, or to win the dating game. I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's incredibly entertaining to watch because they send some crazy people on that show, okay? But basically, this show has taken the fractured pieces of broken relationships, broken hearts, broken understanding of relationships, and put them all together, put a script together, put bathing suits and abs and sexual immorality and all these things and said, let's see what happens. Disaster. But this is our world. This is our culture. What's crazy is that some of us can watch that and be like, this is a fantasy. This is a comedy. This is crazy. But some of us in this very room, many of you in your generation can look at that example like the Bachelor or the Bachelorette season after season and say, oh, that's what love is. That's what dating should look like. That's the kind of guy that I want. That's the kind of girl that I want. Or you may even actually be convinced that's literally what you want. And man, that's scary. That's a scary space to get to and to be. I mean, I think about this culture and I think about apps, right? How many dating apps are out there? It's so simple today to download an app and literally just swipe now. You see the face and you just swipe. You like it or you don't. That's our culture. That's the one we live in. Or how about our peers and how they respond to relationships? For example, if your friends have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, then you think you must need one as well. You feel that pressure, right? Or how about this? If one guy asks a girl on a date, one date, they might as well be married, right? Or they share with you that they have some type of a feeling. Wait, when are you guys having kids? Wait, what? Relax, bro. Like I just shared that, that's a nice face, whatever, right? But this is happening in your culture, in your world, in your very schools, among your friendship circles. Always getting the question, so who do you like? Who are you into? Or how about this? There's something might be wrong with you if you're not into someone. Why? But that's your culture. That's what you lean into. That's what's around you. Listen, this talk tonight and as I move forward for next week, it's going to be complex, okay? Because we're talking about emotions. We're talking about love. We're talking about real people, okay? So it's not linear, this thing, right? So at no point do I need you to judge me and be like, well, it doesn't work like that. Relax. I know that, okay? But I'm going to try to make it linear for you, to put some definitions to things, because I believe that this culture that you're being raised in, what this world believes about romantic relationships, about dating, is so dark or is so skewed or is so not enough information being given to you on the front end that you just lean into it, you walk into it, and it's walking into a lot of unknown. But the reality is that your heart, your mind, your body, your spirit is at risk if not careful. And that's what I want to unpack today. But in order to do that, I got to make it somewhat linear, somewhat so that you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I can see some sense in this space. But before I do that, I think I need to define dating. Because there's all kinds of definitions out there, right? Right? There's the dating of somewhere someone asks you on a date, right? They take you to a movie or they go out to have dinner or something like that, and that's it. It's a one time or maybe a couple times, and you're good. There's no strings attached. There's no commitments. Just a good night out getting to know someone. You're like, what the heck? What are you saying? Yes, those actually exist. In fact, I would encourage them once in a while. They're a thing. What I'm talking about, though, this other dating is a romantic relationship, a commitment. There's actually some strings attached. You don't date anyone else. You are exclusive. There's an expectancy to be with each other as much as possible, to talk as much as possible. You would call them boyfriend or girlfriend. So when I say dating most of the night, the rest of the night, and next week, that's what I'm talking about. A romantic relationship like that. I think we need to get clear because there's all kinds of different, definitions, right? Like And we'll get into some more of that in just a second. But this is what primarily I'm going to be leaning into. Fair? Good? Okay. So, up here I have a board that our very own Steph decorated with some flowers. And this is something that I like to call the progression of a romantic relationship. Remember, I know that we're really talking about hearts and people and different dynamics and different situations, and it's not this linear, but I'm going to attempt to walk through a basic look at a romantic relationship. How do they begin and what's at stake in order to unpack some stuff. Okay? So let's say there's I wish I had my little marker or something like that, but let's say there's two people right here. Okay? Always, always, always. Time is irrelevant for the most part here because, again, it's not linear. It can come in different aspects in different ways. Always, 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 a couple starts here as strangers, meaning they don't know each other, right? Like at some point, they probably didn't know that other person existed, okay? Eventually, they lean into being acquaintances maybe. Again, it could be for a day, it could be for 2 days, it could be for a month, it could be for a year, whatever. Like you know of one another. You have a friend of a friend of a friend, and you've heard about that person, right? As they go down the pipe here and they go down this linear perspective, they might have a crush on one another. Aw, so cute, right? Also, for some people, sadly, this is where they stay forever. It's the truth. It's like, you had a crush on me 10 years ago? Why didn't you say something, bro? Okay, crush comes along. Eventually, maybe they become friends. Okay, again, I'm making something linear. There's no timeline to this. It could be quick, it could be long, it could be fast. Well, we don't know, okay? But we can become friends, right? They know one another. They start sharing time with one another. They start sharing stories with one another, things like that. Maybe eventually in the best space, or maybe in the best world, they start dating one another. When I say that dating right there, I'm talking about the first definition. They ask them on a date. They take them out on a date. They go have a couple movie dates or dinner with one another. But there then comes a moment, okay? Again, I'm not going to attach time to this because it can happen quick. It can happen throughout a long time. But at some point comes a certain line that is crossed, okay? Where you actually stepped into a relationship, all right? And what I want to argue is that something happens when that line is crossed. Now, here's something very important. You can define that, or you don't have to define that because of what I'm going to explain in just a second. So that whole idea of like situationships, not a thing, all right? You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to tell you right now, okay? There is a moment, you may go on social media and call it a thing. You may call it a thing among your friends, whatever, that this line is crossed into the relationship space and into the relationship role. And what happens in that space, I like to call them dials. These dials start turning, okay? And I want to define what those dials are for you. You ready? Okay, the first one is this. If you're taking notes, it's the emotional dial, okay? Man, you start truly feeling the butterflies. Oh boy. Maybe you can like hear birds singing in the air. Your heart beats in a crazy speed when they're around you. It just feels awesome, okay? That dial starts turning. Second one is this. It's the physical. Oh, hey. What you see is very attractive to you. You want to see more of it? You want to be around them more? The physical dial starts turning in your mind. You just want to keep looking. You know what I'm talking about. The next one is psychological, okay? Psychological one, all right? In this one, you can't stop thinking about them. They're filling your mind space, right? You find yourself talking about them a good amount. These dials start turning. The next one is the spiritual, right? The spiritual dial. If you're a person of faith, you wonder what God may think about it. Your heart of hearts is leading you to do things that you don't know you would have ever dared to do, right? So as soon as that line is crossed, when you step into that space, may you have defined it or not defined it, It doesn't matter. At some point, you will cross or you can cross a line where you start activating these dials. And depending on your maturity, depending on you as a couple, will depend how quickly those dials are turned. Because not only do these get set off, but then something else happens. The clock starts ticking. Things start actually wanting to progress. Okay? So, for example, your emotional dial, I got these little hourglasses over here. At some point when you turn them, time starts ticking on it. Here's what I mean by that. It wants to progress. Our emotions actually begin to take serious root. Eventually, you're in love, or you can't be in love. Listen, you might have parents, sorry parents, I'm talking to you too if you're watching this, parents, adults who say, just puppy love. What do you know about love? I don't buy that for a second. I honestly believe that you, in your young adult years, you can truly experience love. I believe that. I'm not saying go find it right now. I'm just saying I know that you for sure can sense that and feel that. And you know, we also want to be careful because we don't want to confuse true love with infatuation. Okay? That means this intense but short-lived passion or admiration for someone or something. That's what that means. Then, also, the physical side of things, right? This starts ticking as well. What do I mean by that? It starts with holding hands, or maybe you guys were like watching a movie. Watch this. You're watching a movie. You're kind of like you're just near each other. Look at my hands, okay? Right? And all of a sudden, the pinkies touch. And this rush goes through your body, right? Sorry, that came from, I just watched The Greatest Showman, and they're like watching, and she goes like that, she's like, right, like her eyes, and then he's an idiot and stops holding her hand. Perfect moment to disciple my boys in that one. Anyway, or you start holding hands, you start linking arms, you start holding each other, maybe caressing each other's faces, whatever the heck that is. Or how about these couples? I always love saying this. How about these couples at school? I don't know if you ever see this. I know this happened in my school. Well, watch this. Time out. Come back to me. How about these couples? Listen. These couples that they can't separate from one another. They somehow have to touch each other the whole time. So walking to class, right? She has a backpack on and he's trying to hold her as they walk to class. Gosh, I hope you see that tomorrow and just laugh your head off. But it's true, right? It's you gotta man, give her some air, bro, right? Kissing, lying on each other's laps, making out, all of this in time, depending on the couple, depending on your maturity, can and will progress all the way to sex. And I'm gonna unpack that more in a few weeks, but it can. It could lead to that. The other one that, like I said, gets started is the psychological. It wants to progress in time. Like I said, the relationship begins to take up space in your mind beyond what you thought would happen. Your decision-making, by the way, if you think that, all your decision-making in your relationships are rational, just ask your friends. They'll tell you, right? How you think about things, what you trust to be true, in time, this relationship will affect those things. It's natural. It progresses in time. And the final one is the spiritual, like I said. Okay? And here, spiritually, you start having to walk out your roles in the relationship. Woo! In time. Many of you don't know how, or you give up on what you know to be true in your heart. You begin to compromise, right? Because you crossed this line, maybe you didn't define it, but you started turning this dial pretty heavily. All of a sudden, you know what happens? You turn this one and you turn this one. All of your convictions to not date a non-Christian all of a sudden start going out the window because you've turned this one pretty high. And spiritually, you start having to make sense of it. Oh, it's okay. I'll bring him to Jesus. I'll missionary date. That's fine. We'll get more into that next week. Just a taste. Listen, this right here is the biggest reason I actually like to say that your generation, or really just a lot of people, are dating in the dark. And I'm not saying that to like be weird. I'm saying that because dating in the dark in knowledge and understanding that all these places are getting affected. They're being affected as you jump into romantic relationships. But especially in the Christian world, you know what all you hear about is what you can see. So you know where you live most of the time in the Christian world? Where is it? It's right here. It's the physical. As long as you're not having sex, you're good. What? What if you turn the emotional dial super high and now you've become incredibly codependent and emotionally you're struggling and you're hurting each other, but you're not taking your clothes off, so it must be fine. You know how I was raised in my home? Sorry, Mom, if you're hearing this. She would say, you better not bring anybody home pregnant. Okay. She scared the heck out of me. No, I'm not going to lie. So I was just like, oh, God, stay away from sex forever. Because she will kill me. Like, that's what I believed growing up. But you know what she never trained me on? These other three. And many times as the church or as believers, all we focus is on this. As long as you're not taking your clothes off, as long as you're not having sex, as long as you're not doing those things they're going to be fine. But you know what we don't even realize is that if we were turning this even just halfway through to a place in our space that it shouldn't, it actually affects the rest of these. Because all of these are actually also interconnected. But we don't talk about them. Man, I have a story of a girl. She actually, these two girls, they were dating, they're sisters. They were dating starting as freshmen. Right? And they were in this relationship freshman year, sophomore year, junior year comes around. Now senior year comes around. They all still dating one another, right? Right as senior year is about to start, one of the girls gets dumped. And it gets ugly at the house. It got so bad that this poor young lady, she actually starts acting out in the craziest ways. The family is like, who is this person? We don't know this person. They're being this crazy individual. We don't get it. And so they come to me to try to fix them, of course, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to sit with this person and I'm just going to listen to their story. Guys, 30 minutes in, it was easy to see what was going on. She was suffering from a broken heart. The emotion and the psychological that was in that relationship was so deep. The dials had been turned so high that she didn't know what to do with it now. That she was a junior going in to be a senior with a broken heart. Yet everyone could just pay attention to the physical. They're acting out. What is wrong with them? Why don't they fix it? What if we just leaned in a little bit deeper and realized that relationships, there's so much more to them. You're putting so much more on the line. All kinds of things are being affected if we're not careful. Again, I will open up more into this probably next week, but here's the thing. What I want to lean into is this. You see this line right here? Another line shows up in time, okay? This line is the line that crosses into marriage. Oh, boy. Hold on a second before you cheer, okay? Here's the thing. I believe when I read the scriptures, I've been married almost 20 years. Here's what I believe, that all four of these areas were beautiful gifts that God gave to us to experience in marriage. That it's going to get to a certain place where now you're stepping into intimacy. A beautiful gift that God has given us. But if not careful, if not practiced in a mature way, we will ramp these all the way up. We will get to a certain place and we will say, but I want to keep experiencing more of this. But guess what? God created these things so he gets to tell us how they're used. And he says, there's going to be a time that you're going to use these to the max in an intimate relationship. And we're going to talk more about what that means in week 5. But for some of us, and like I said, I'm getting a little bit into next week, but for some of us, we've ramped these up so high, we've gone past this line. We're over here. We're living over here. And we're wondering, what else do I do? Or why are things not coming together fully? Or like, why do things seem to be a little fuzzy? Or why do I feel guilty? Or those types of things. Let me drop some scripture on you. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 7. This is what scripture tells us about love and our hearts. It says this, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Now you might say, see, my love desires. Let's wake it up. No. First, I would say, how do you know what true love desires? That's my first question to you. Because guess what? True and mature love desires to be accompanied by true and mature commitment. Hey, write that one down. Let me say it again. True and mature love desires to be accompanied by true and mature commitment. And guess what? Both demand a mature faith and a mature person. 1 Corinthians 14:20 says this about maturity. Brothers and sisters, stop thinking like children. In regard to evil, be infants, but in your thinking, be adults. There's some maturity language there. Called to some maturity. Or how about to guard the heart? Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. God is warning us. He's giving us information here. God is warning you about all these things because he knows what comes into play during a relationship. He knows that all these things are activated. It's not just, I have some feelings. He's cute. No, he knows there's so much deeper than that because he built you with a lot of depth so that you can experience intimacy one day within your marriage, not just in a physical sense, but in all 4 of these areas, which many of us have never been educated on. You know how we treat sometimes our emotions and our psychological maturity? You know how we treat it sometimes? It's like we're throwing spaghetti on the wall to see if it sticks. That's how we do it. Let's see what happens. What? But guess what? It's what we do in relationships sometimes. Let's see what happens. Really? You want to put your heart on the line like that? You want to put your mind on the line like that? You want to put your body and your spirit on the line like that? Come on. There's a little, I didn't bring up my writing utensil, so you're just going to have to visualize it this way. The world starts relationships in this way, usually in the intimacy space, hoping that it'll lead to trust, hoping from there it'll lead to commitment. Let me say that again. Start with intimacy, which we hope will lead to trust, and then lead to commitment. I believe that's way backwards. That's the way the world works. I believe that the Lord calls us to the opposite of that. That we lean into commitment, which will build into trust, which will build into intimacy. Something beautiful about that flow. To me, in that flow, there's respect for yourself and your value. Word matters. I'm in this with you. I really want to date you. I really want to get to know you in a mature, balanced level, not starting over here and then work our way back. But that's a lot of the times what our culture teaches. Why do you think there's so many people out there? We'll just move in together. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. Tons of intimacy being placed on the line right there with no commitment. Therefore, good luck on trust. Good luck. Ladies, if you want trust and commitment in your world, don't start with intimacy. Don't do that. You deserve so much more than that. You're way more valuable than that. Let's see what true commitment can look like. That's a beautiful thing. People who are about their word and actually keep their word. Maybe a man or a young lady who keeps their word, honors their word. Man, there's some commitment there. Now, I commit to protect us in this relationship. I commit to just you and I dating. I commit to having eyes for you. I commit to whatever. What do those look like? And then, let's see if he does it. Right? So my encouragement to us would be, this is why it's important to grow then in these areas. Matthew 22:37 says this, and he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. Listen, I'm not calling you to perfection. I'm not saying that you're going to be 100 in all these areas. But man, what if we were curious on how mature and how strong we could get in these areas? What if two people did this? A guy and a girl that pursued maturity in these spaces, and down the road, God willing, meet one another, and they're like, yup, man, we should be together. I'm bringing as low amount of baggage as possible because I worked on me. That was my line. That was my focus. It wasn't just running with my feelings. It wasn't just seeing how many people I can sleep with. It wasn't just bending on all my spiritual principles. Whoa. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God with your body. Once again, this is not a verse designed to shame you. This is a verse to remind you who you belong to. You were bought at a price. Your body was bought at a price. Your spirit was bought at a price. Your mind, your emotions were bought at a price. And that lover of your soul and your body and your mind says, hey, 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 careful. Take care of yourself. Don't just throw yourself out there to be trampled on because you want to feel something. Look to me, who is the lover of your body and your mind and your heart and your soul, who says you are enough, who will give you ultimately the love that you will ever actually need. But because I love you, I'm also going to gift you the gift of relationship if that's what God has for you. God, what a beautiful God we serve. Listen, if you're already in a relationship, I'd encourage you, start thinking about these things in your relationship. Maybe set up some boundaries. Maybe slow down on the dials and how you turn them. Maybe your eyes for the first time are open. Shoot, I didn't even think about the psychological things that are going on. Like I said, man, you know where that comes in is how much are you thinking in your mind about that situation? Here's what I mean by that. Oh my gosh. Here's a telltale sign. If this guy right here, nope, no, not that one. Yeah, you know the telltale sign of that one. Of the psychological, here's a telltale sign of this is like, oh boy, it's up there. When you have ditched all your friends. Woo-wee! Why? Because you wake up thinking about him. You wake up thinking about her. Every plan you make has got to include them. Oh boy, right? So much so you're like, I got to carve out more time, more space, because this is being consumed by them. To me, if that's happening in your space, in your world, maybe, just maybe, I suggest this might be ramped up way too much. You know when that makes sense? when you get married. There's not very many decisions I make without letting my wife know. Like tonight, if I'm like, I'm not going to go home. I'm just going to go over to Jake's house and play video games all night. First of all, Hannah's like, nope. Why? Because of their relationship, right? But my wife would be like, where are you? What? Lower the dial, girl. No, that wouldn't work. Okay? But what I'm saying is we want to be careful with that. Be careful that you're not playing house all around school and hurting each other. Oh boy, what do I mean by that? You know that there's miniature divorces going on in your school every single day, right? Every day. What? I didn't see any rings or ceremonies. Remember, it doesn't matter. This right here doesn't matter. If it's just a thing, it's a symbol, it is beautiful, and I make it, you make it matter, you see it, and it means something. But listen to me. In the actual reality world, what matters is these things because they represent me. So if I have ramped them up into the marriage space, even as a 15-year-old, I'm playing house. So when he doesn't like me anymore, or she doesn't like me anymore, and we just break up, you wonder why people are so brokenhearted. This is why I believe that you can truly love. Because I have felt a heartbreak in my life, and it was over 20 years ago, and I can still, in my memory, close my eyes and remember how much that hurt. And you know what I'm talking about if you felt one before. That's real, right? That's real. So what happens in those spaces, it's like a miniature divorce went down. Wait, what do you mean I don't get to talk to you every day anymore? What do you mean we're not going to the dance anymore? What do you mean, like, you're giving me back my stuff? You see what I'm saying? And this happens over and over and over and over and over again in your teen years, in your college years. No wonder by the time you're an adult and you actually get married, you're so stinking numb that when divorce comes on the board, you're like, I've done that before. I know how that feels. Let's just get it over with. That's our culture. That's our world. And all I'm trying to explain to you is, let's open our eyes. What's really happening in these relationships? What's really happening in these romantic relationships? Let's not just call it a fling or a thing or a situationship. No. Stop calling it random things that somehow in your mind help you devalue it. Let's talk about what's really going on. These are still being activated. And without care or maturity, you can get them to a place so intimate that they could actually crush you if not careful. This is the how. This is the what's actually going on. This is what people don't talk about and don't tell you. You still with me? All right. So let me ask a couple questions. Why should you date? Why should you date? Well, I'm going to take a couple shots at it. First of all, everything you do should be done on purpose and for a purpose. Do we do that all the time? No, we don't. But we're encouraged by the Bible to do that in 1 Corinthians 10:31 and Romans 14:23. Think about your decisions. Pray, ask questions, look for counsel. So here's my response to why should you date? Like if you're asking that question. Listen, if you can't think of any good, non-self-serving reason to date, perhaps you're not ready to date. Or you have a wrong view of dating. That's okay. No judgment there. Just go get educated. It's okay. I'm not taking a shot at you. If there's any water nearby, if I can get some, that'd be fantastic. Excuse me. Why should you date? You want to start getting to know the person you can potentially marry in a deeper, more intimate way. What? I'm 15. Exactly. Let's talk about it. You know? You'll see how the math doesn't work in just a second. But it's your life. Next one is this. Let me encourage you. Do not date for the reason of just getting to know someone. Okay? And this moment is like, I'm talking about the romantic dating definition. Okay? That right there is wrong. You do not need to try on the shoe before you buy the pair. All right? Thanks, buddy. There's no need for that. There's no need for that. Great. Now I'm going to burp. Thank you. I'm not complaining, buddy. You can actually get to know people in groups. It happens all the time. It's okay. Do it on purpose. You don't have to be awkward. You don't have to be weird about it. If you want to get to know people, get to know people. You can actually do that in groups. That's okay. Or, God forbid, maybe, just maybe, ask a person on a date. First definition, not the second definition. What? Immediately they must get married. No, they don't. And by the way, boys, if you take a girl on a date and you buy dinner and you buy the ticket to the movies or whatever, they don't owe you a darn thing. They don't. They don't owe you a kiss. They don't owe you nothing. They owe you like, thank you for that. That was wonderful. It was nice to get to know you. Bye. That's it. So if you want to see kind of what that's like, the awkwardness, what it looks like to talk to someone, you want to ask them on a date, have fun. In fact, you will get your chance at Spring Fling in just a few weeks. Okay? We'll create the space for you. Okay? There's nothing wrong about that. All right? Okay? Take a person on a date, not for the sake of like, will you marry me tomorrow? This is the other thing I would encourage. Keep your mind and heart safe from hurt. So when the one, and we will talk about the one next Wednesday, does come, you can be strong and ready. Listen, it may actually make it more clear for you when you should start a romantic relationship type of dating if your past isn't dragging you down. So careful. Now, for those of you who have crossed these lines over and over again, you're like, bro, the knobs on here are broken. We're going to have those conversations because there's so much grace for you. Oh, that is the Jesus we serve. There's so much grace there. Okay, so we will talk about that next Wednesday. So make sure you come back because I'm going to cover that next week. But for those of us who are maybe on the early side, or you're thinking about dating, or maybe you've tried maybe dating a couple times here and there, but you're kind of like wondering, whatever. Man, let me encourage you. Be careful. Take care of your heart. Protect these 4 spaces and focus on maybe growing in them. Ask a lot of questions. Ask your peers questions. Ask your leaders questions. What would it look like to grow in these spaces? Because this question will pop up. But what, Arnold? What if I miss? What if I miss the one because, I wasn't ready, or I didn't think? All the what ifs go down. Listen, God is so much bigger than that. I don't know how many young ladies have sat on my couch with my wife and I through counseling, literally like, I'm never going to get married. I'm like, you're going to be fine. And like 2 years later, they're married. I'm doing their wedding. I'm like, see? But when you're in that moment, in that space, things get very clouded and things get very loud in your own mind. And you can start convincing yourself, this will never be, this will never happen. This to me, that's not trusting God. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. He's got you, All right, how about this question? When should you date? Ooh. On both definitions, like I said, be careful with that heart of yours. Understand the time frame. First, I would say this. It's between you and your parents. I got your parents. Go home. Have a conversation with mom and dad. I'm going to encourage you to honor your parents. Listen to what they have to say, right? And do your best to meet in the middle, or try to have that conversation and figure it out. But to me, man, the buck stops there. If your parents are like, that's just not going to happen under my home. Well, listen, do you have the maturity enough to say, great, I don't need that right now. I'll be okay. I can wait. Nice. To me, that's honorable, man. So it starts there. After that, I would say when the timing is right. Here's what I mean by that. The clock is ticking, remember? I said to you, when you cross this line, the dials start turning up. According to your maturity, your knowledge, your understanding of these things in your life, you will turn them accordingly. Quickly, slowly, at a pace. That's why I have these hourglasses up here. Tick, 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 tick. Because what will happen, I promise you this, you will get to a place, depending on when you started to turn these and how fast you turn these, you will get to a line, you will get to a place where the rest of that dial was meant to be had in the intimacy of marriage. And you will take a beautiful thing that God gave you, and before you know it, it only turns into temptation, ugly temptation in your space, in your world. It's why I'm not a massive fan of dating and being engaged for a very long time. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of like, let's date for 18 years. What? That's crazy. Trust me, you're going to be flirting with this line all the time and coming back and forth, and you're going to cross it. I promise you that. It's happening, right? I was going to say something, but it'd probably be not appropriate. I was going to, no, okay. But what I'm saying is, that's why timing is important. So this is what I like to tell a couple or an individual who's like thinking about dating. Okay, let's think about the timeline, right? If I'm saying to you, man, to me, healthy timeline of dating, engagement, and marriage is 3 to 4 years. If that's true, let's just play with math here for a second. Think about your life right now and your situation right now. Are you ready to be married in 3 to 4 years? I'm not forcing you into anything. You jumped into this relationship. I'm just asking you that question because this timeline, it doesn't add up. Is it impossible? No. I've seen couples make it all the way through high school. I can name a couple right now that got married, just had their first baby. They did it all through high school. But my goodness, every single time they say, don't do it. It was the hardest thing we ever did in our lives. There's a lot of hurt there, and there's a lot of things that we still need to heal from there. So what I'm saying to you is, like the scriptures say, hey, don't awaken it before it's ready. Timing is everything. Now, please hear me this. If you are in a relationship right now, don't be like, I hate you, Arnold, you're telling me to break up. That's not what I'm saying. I'd rather us have a conversation of like, how can we help you? How can we help you work through that? And we're going to talk more about that next Wednesday, okay? But I'm just letting you know that if you're not dating right now, if you're not jumping into a relationship just yet, and you're thinking, when should I start? I'm saying to you, think about the timing. Think about the timing. Think about these dials turning and at what speed you want to turn them. Because you know what I see all the time? I see really sweet, loving couples jump into a relationship maybe a little too soon in their maturity in these 4 spaces. And they get here super fast. And then they just begin to plateau because they don't want to cross the line because they want to honor God. But they just flirt with this line. And in time, these beautiful gifts become temptation. What did I say to you boys last week? This whole idea of having a fast sex drive. People look at that and be like, ooh, you're gross. Ooh, that's disgusting. Ooh, blah, 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 whatever. You know when that's going to serve you? in your marriage. In your marriage. It's going to serve you so well. Because you're going to be so determined on work. You're going to be so determined on doing the thing and going after whatever it is that you have to go after in your work life, in your own life. And you know what? We're so stinking lazy and so about ourselves and want to just turn on the TV and get in our TV box that if it wasn't for that sex drive, you may not have sex again with your wife. It's a beautiful gift that God gives you and says, hey, I gave you this for a reason, a purpose actually going to serve you in your marriage. I'm going to talk more about that in a few weeks. But there's a purpose to these beautiful, beautiful gifts that God has given us. But if not careful, we can turn them into serious, terrifying temptations. In the physical world alone, check this out. This is how this looks. In the physical space alone, it looks like this. It looks like a couple gets here, right on the edge, and they start praying like this. Ready? God, would you just take these feelings away? Would you just take these physical things that I want to do with her and with him, whatever? Can you just make them go away until we're married? And then you know what happens? You keep praying that, and you keep putting your mindset there, that all of a sudden you grow numb. And then when you do get married, all of a sudden, you're supposed to be like, woo, this is okay. And your mind doesn't know what to do with that. It's why we work with couples who wait forever, pray it away, then get married, and then they're like, I am so confused. I don't know what to do here. I feel weird about this, and this was supposed to be the best night of my life, and what is happening in my mind? Because you shut that out of your life for so long because you were living right here. So we want to be careful with that. These beautiful gifts that God gives us, don't turn them into a temptation. Don't turn them into this space of, they're so tempting, I'm just going to get them out of my life until I'm married. That's dangerous. Another when you should date, when you are secure with who you are. When you have a strong understanding of who you are in Jesus. I would encourage you in that. If you're asking that question, do you like who you are? Do you understand who you are? Are you secure in who you are? And then the final piece in this, I would say, is this. When you should date, when you are in a healthy and somewhat mature area and all these personal effects. In a healthy and somewhat mature area. Why do I say somewhat? Because the reality is we're never going to perfect these. In fact, I honestly believe, and again, I'll talk about this probably when I talk about sex, is some of these areas you can't actually grow until, like, there's certain things that God wants to teach you, I believe, in these spaces. If he's gifting you marriage, that he's not going to teach you till you're in marriage. And that's a cool thing. That's a beautiful thing. Okay? So, I'm not telling you to be perfect here. I'm saying, ask around, what does it look like to be mature in these spaces? Which, once again, we'll talk more about that next week. I'll end with this. No, I won't. Sorry, I had one more thing. So here's what I would say overall when it comes to, like, when should I date? Focus on growing in who you are in Christ. Mature in your faith. Grow to understand and respect the opposite sex. Build up and mature in these areas that I've been pointing out here on the board. So that when the person that God has for you comes around, you are as ready as you can be. So that time-wise, you guys can date, get engaged, and be married within 3 to 4 years, if possible. The later in life you meet, maybe even less time. Because like I said to you, I don't believe in long dating. It's a little crazy to me when people do that. But I also want to make sure you hear this, because sadly this gets twisted in the church world. I also don't believe in just jumping into getting married either, for the sake of temptation. I'm tempted, so I got to get married at 20 years old, 19 years old. Listen, don't just jump into marriage. Don't just get married for the sake of temptation because your immaturity can't keep up. Oh boy. That was a shot. Don't do that. Sadly, that's been the answer of the church. And that's another maybe apology to you. Guys like me, who are in positions like me, they don't want to do the heavy lifting with you. They don't want to teach you these things. They don't want to lean in to the discipleship and the maturing in these areas and do the hard discipleship lifting. So you know what we say? Just get married. Oh, okay. And then poor young couples listen to that and they go get married and their maturity in these areas are so hurting, are so lacking. Who's going to help them then? And I wish Barna or somebody would do a study on these young couples that get married super young. I think it's out there. They don't do very well. And if they even stay together, their sex life, their emotional baggage, the way they talk to each other, the way they treat each other is pretty brutal. Why? Because guys like me didn't take the time to develop you in these spaces, to do the heavy lifting of discipleship, not in this youth group. Nope. These youth, these leaders and I, we care about these areas for you. We're not going to tell you, just run off and get married. Nope. We're not going to tell you that. We're not going to tell you, just break up tomorrow. Nope. Don't date ever. Nope. We're going to educate you. Educate you. Then make a call. That's why I tell you, for those of you who are dating right now, I'm not telling you go break up tomorrow. Now, if we have a conversation and we find out, it's a little unhealthy and it's dangerous for you, I may encourage you and advise you. You might want to walk away from that right now for the sake of your heart. No, I can't do that. Okay, well, let's work together. How can I help? You're going to do it anyway. Might as well help you. Might as well speak into your life. I'd rather speak into your life than for you to never come back to this youth group again because you think I hate your relationship. That's just the way I see it. Just remember, don't open this box before it's time. Look at this quote. Feelings of love can create intimacy that overpowers reason. Listen, feelings of love can create intimacy that overpowers reason. Listen, this is not meant to be romantic. I didn't say that quote to be romantic. Aw. Nope, maybe to our culture it would be romantic. It's not meant to be romantic. Listen, feelings won't be there, or feelings won't be the ones that save you when the relationship gets rocky. Feelings won't tell you what to do when everything around the relationship is falling apart. Feelings won't bring you peace when all you want to do is scream because your heart hurts so much. So careful with the feelings. Because according to that quote, your feelings can overpower your reason. And you will make some crazy decisions sometimes because of feelings. No, instead, man, we need wisdom that God gives you in the psychological. That will help make things clear. Or you need assurance and confidence in the physical in order to stand your ground. Or you need stability in the emotional in order that you don't float away when the going gets rough. Or you need strength, peace, and leadership from the Holy Spirit in the spiritual space in order to be saved in those moments. If you need to hear those again or you need to take a snapshot of that, you can come grab it later because I don't want to repeat it and I want to send you to group. Next week, this is a to be continued. Next week, we're going to talk about, okay, well, I've started dating, now what? Or I have in the past, now what? Or we're going to cover this. What does the Bible say about dating a non-Christian? Oh, shoot. Who should I date? How should I date? I'm dating, now what? Those are the questions we're answering next Wednesday. So come back, bring a friend. Go ahead and go to your life groups. If you don't have a life group, come talk to me, and we'll get talking about this stuff. Hit it.